जय जय श्री चैतन्य जय नित्यानंद। जय अद्वैत चंद्र जय गौर भक्त वृंदा। जय जय श्री चैतन्य जय नित्यानंद। जय अद्वैत चंद्र जय गौर भक्त वृंदा। जय जय श्री चैतन्य जय नित्यानंदा। जय अद्वैत चंद्र जय गौर भक्त वृंदा। श्री चैतन्य चरितामृत की जय। श्रील कृष्णदास कविराज गोस्वामी की जय। श्रील प्रभुपाद की जय। सामवेद गौर भक्त वृंद की जय। ओम ज्ञान तिमिरांधस्य ज्ञानांजन शलाकया चक्षुरुन्मीलितं येन तस्मै श्री गुरवे नमः। श्री चैतन्य मनोभीष्टं स्थापितं येन भूतले स्वयं रूपः कदा मह्यं ददाति स्वपदान्तिकम्। नमो विष्णुपादाय कृष्णप्रेष्ठाय भूतले श्रीमते भक्तिवेदांत स्वामिनिति नामिने। नमस्ते सारस्वते देवे गौरवाणी प्रचारिणे निर्विशेषा शून्यवादी पाश्चात्य देशतारिणे। जय श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैता गदाधर श्रीवासादि गौर भक्त वृंद। हरे कृष्णा 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 हरे 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 राम 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 हरे हरे. Hare Krishna, dear devotees, welcome to today's Sri Chaitanya Charitamrita reading session. We are reading from Sri Chaitanya Charitamrita, Adi Lila, chapter 22. Oh, no, sorry, that was Srimad Bhagavatam, chapter 16, text 46. We started this text yesterday. So we are reading this section of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's later childhood pastimes, Kaishora Lila, where he defeats this Digvijayi Pandit called Keshava Kashmiri. So yesterday we read that when Keshav Kashmiri, being puffed up, tried to minimize the position of Mahaprabhu, calling him simply a teacher of introductory grammar, Mahaprabhu accepted it in a humble way. And then he said, and also, what was his intention, Keshav Kashmiri's intention? Kalapa Vyakarana. That means just word jugglery. This is not a very great advanced position. That was his intention when he said. So then Mahaprabhu said, yes, actually, I'm like a small child in front of you. You are such a learned scholar and you're so experienced. I'm just like a small boy. Whatever I teach my children, my students don't understand. I'm not even able to teach properly, and whatever little that I teach, they don't even understand. That's my position. But you are so exalted, you are so great. If you can, I have a desire to hear you compose some poetry. So if you can be so merciful to recite some shlokas in glorification of Mother Ganges. So Keshav Kashmiri felt quite, he was already puffed up, so he was happy to show off, right? So immediately he started reciting like the raging wind. In a matter of 1 hour, he recited 100 verses glorifying Ganga Devi. Then everyone was amazed hearing him recite like that. And Mahaprabhu said, my God, I can tell there is no scholar like you on the whole planet. Whatever you have recited, it is so wonderful, it is so great that nobody can understand what you said. Only you can understand, or your goddess Saraswati can understand. So there, Srila Prabhupada is telling us that um, this was a sarcastic remark by saying that it is so wonderful that nobody can understand, only you and your goddess understands this. So the remark was that what was the point there? What was the point that Srila Prabhupada is making there? Anyone remembers? Of course, Mahaprabhu being the Supreme Lord, so he's criticizing Keshav Kashmiri for being so puffed up, right? Nobody understood what you said. That much he's saying. But also, he's criticizing and he has a right to criticize. Why? Because Keshav Kashmiri is a devotee of Mahaprabhu's servant. Although Keshav Kashmiri was trying to pose that he is in a better position and he was trying to belittle Mahaprabhu's being a teacher of grammar. But in reality, what is the use of all your advancement? Nobody can understand what you said. So he was actually criticizing him. But the point is, he can criticize because he is the master of Keshav Kashmiri's, object of worship, right? His worshipable goddess is a maidservant of Mahaprabhu. So Mahaprabhu was showing his position by criticizing Keshava Kashmiri. Anyway, so here this one. Yeah, your compositions are so nice that no one but you and your worshipable mother, the goddess of learning, can understand. So what is Mahaprabhu trying to do? He minimized the value of Keshav Kashmiri's poetry. Okay. And then it is said that Mahaprabhu had a right to criticize the devotees of his servant. No problem with that. Keshav Kashmiri was proud of being favored by the goddess of learning, but he didn't know that. So that's the point, that Mahaprabhu is showing that he is the master. That's the whole thing. So anyway, then Mahaprabhu said, can you please, so we didn't understand what you said. Can you give explanation? Of course, we don't expect you to explain all the 100 verses, but at least one of them, can you explain? And Keshav Kashmiri says, all right, I will explain. He could have picked anyone, he could have just explained. That would have been, kind of humble on part of Keshav Kashmiri, but he goes, which one do you want me to recite? So already Mahaprabhu said we didn't understand anything. And now he says, which particular one do you want me to recite? I mean, to explain. Which one do you want me to explain? So kind of showing them again, right? So then if we had asked one of the students, which one do you want me to recite? What would the student say? I don't know. I couldn't make out anything. Can you just explain anyone? I don't know what you said. That's what Mahaprabhu said in the beginning, isn't it? But he said, which one do you want? And Mahaprabhu took him by surprise, right? He actually surprised Keshav Kashmiri by saying, I want you to explain this particular verse, and he recites the whole Sanskrit verse. This was too much for Keshav Kashmiri. He was astonished. And he said, I recited those verses like the raging wind. What to speak of, what to speak of being able to hear? No. What to speak? You are actually remembering it, and you're reciting the whole thing, the verse. How could you even remember? How could you repeat what you heard just now? And that was spoken so quickly. So he was amazed. So what did Mahaprabhu say? Who remembers? What did Mahaprabhu say in response to that? Anyone remembers?
Someone, he said that someone has the capability to recite the slokas. Someone has capability to remember once they hear. The Supreme Personality gives, he said, Supreme Personality gives ability. So Prabhupada explains like that, that
Yeah.
only comes from him.
By the grace of the Lord, you are able to say such wonderful poetry. And by the grace of the same Lord, someone else can have the capacity to be a Shruti Dhara. Shruti Dhara means once they hear, they retain it forever. Dhara, Dharan Karna, right? Shruti Dhara. They hear it once and they'll remember it for life. So, your being able to recite such wonderful poetry is not your greatness. This is the mercy of the Lord. And if you can receive the mercy of the Lord, if the Lord can give his mercy to you, he can give that mercy to anyone. So just like you have the mercy of the Lord and you are able to recite such wonderful poetry, I am also blessed by the Lord and I am able to remember. I am Shruti Dhara. Like that he answered. Anyway, then coming to the point Mahaprabhu said, so yeah, he recited that verse now. Okay. He had recited that already. And then that's what Keshav Kashmir said. So now he said, wonderful. Now can you please give the explanation of this verse? Keshav Kashmiri gave an explanation. He explained it. Okay. Then Mahaprabhu says, after listening to the explanation, now can you tell me what are the special features, special qualities, right? Like literary ornaments in this verse that you used, and what are the faults? So here, another thing to note for all of us, Mahaprabhu, he, in that short span of time, the verses that were spoken so quickly, not only did he hear and retain the verse, he actually, and he was able to reproduce it, but he actually understood the meaning and he analyzed it. You know, like a critic, he analyzed what are the plus and what are the negative points and what are the positive points, what are the literary ornaments. And he's known as a like an elementary grammar teacher of Sanskrit. So when he said, can you tell what are the faults and what are some special features in my poetry? I mean, in your poetry, in this particular verse, Keshav Kashmir said, faults? There are no faults in what I recited. In whatever I compose, there's no faults. On the other hand, it is filled with only many special features. It's filled with ornaments, literary ornaments, but there are no faults. So there, that purport, we'll now look at that purport one more time. I'll just explain that to you. So in the purport, Srila Prabhupada is saying, replying to Keshav Kashmiri, Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, well, this is not the verse. We are looking at the, let me see, what was it? Yeah, this 46 is what we are supposed to read today. So there's not a tinge of fault in that verse. Rather, it has the good qualities of similes and alliteration. So what are the special qualities there? If you look at the verse, I just see, this is the verse that Keshav Kashmiri had recited. One of the verses, one of the 100 verses that he recited. So what are the special features here? Srila Prabhupada explains. If you look at the last line, Bhavani bhartur ya shirasi vibhavatyadbhuta gunaha. What? Several times bha is coming. Bhavani bhartur ya shirasi vibhavati adbhuta guna. So this is a way of beautifying your poetry. Your poem looks very beautiful when you repeat the same sound over and over again. And that too, it comes only in the last line. So that is one ornament. What is the other one? Such repetition is called anuprasa or alliteration, repeating the same sound. Then the words Lakshmi, Riva, and Vishnu's Charana Kamalotpatti are instance of Upama Alankara. Upama means comparing with something. So here, first line, Mahatvam Gangayah Satatam Idam Abhati Nitaram. What does that mean? The greatness of Mother Ganges is always shining, right? The greatness of Mother Ganges is always shining without comparison. First line. The second line is saying, Yad Esha Sri Vishnu's Charana Kamalotpatti Subhaga. So she is very auspicious. Why is she very auspicious or fortunate? Because she is emanating from the lotus feet of Lord Vishnu. Because she emanates from the lotus feet of Lord Vishnu, so Charana Kamalotpatti. Utpatti means where she is taking birth. Charana, Vishnu's Charana, the lotus feet of Lord Vishnu, Kamala. So now it appears like she is taking birth from a lotus because the feet of Lord Vishnu are compared to a lotus, and she's taking birth from that lotus, taking birth from the lotus feet of Lord Vishnu. She has become very fortunate. Okay? So here, comparing her to have been taken birth from a lotus, the lotus feet of Lord Vishnu, that's another beauty, right? This is Upama Alankara. Upama means comparing her birth, uh, with birth taking place from a lotus, like that. And there's one more comparison. Third line, Dvitiya Sri Lakshmir Iva Sura Narair Archa Charana. Dvitiya means second, Sri means beautiful, Lakshmi. So this Ganga is a second Lakshmi, Lakshmi who is beautiful. So she is the second Lakshmi. Therefore, she is worshipped, or her lotus feet are worshipped by Sura Nara, the demigods as well as human beings. Because she is like the second Lakshmi, who is very beautiful, she is worshipped, her lotus feet are worshipped by both the human beings as well as demigods. So again, here Ganga Devi is compared with Lakshmi. So here Ganga means the river Ganga. They were sitting on the banks of the river Ganga, and Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu said, can you say something in glorification of Ganga Devi? So the river Ganga is compared to the person Lakshmi. So this is another beauty in poetry, comparing the river to a person. So that's another beauty. Okay. Then I think these are the fault will come later. So these are all the positive side. Okay. What are the special features? So these are the three special features. I'll just read that purport. I'll just read it and you'll understand. In the last line of the verse quoted by Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, the letter Bha is repeated many times, as in the words Bhavani, Bhartur, Vibhavati, and Adbhuta. Such repetition is called Anuprasa or alliteration. The words Lakshmi Riva, it's like Lakshmi, and Vishnu's Charana Kamalotpatti, taking birth from the lotus feet of Vishnu, are instances of Upama Alankara, comparison, Upama Alankara. For they exhibit metaphorical beauty, metaphors. They're compared to something. She is compared to Lakshmi Devi, and she is compared to have been taken birth from a lotus. The Ganges is water, and Lakshmi is the goddess of fortune, a person. Since water and a person are not actually similar, the comparison is metaphorical. Okay. This was this verse about the glorification. Now text 47. प्रभु कहे न कही यदि ना करो रोषा कहो तुम्हारा এই শ্লোকে কিবা আছে দোষা. Okay, so Achintya Dev Prabhu.
Hare Krishna Mataji, please accept my humble obeisances. All graces Srila Prabhupada, all graces assembled devotees.
Please accept my humble obeisances, Prabhuji. Jai Srila Prabhupada.
Translation. The Lord said, "My dear sir, I may say something to you if you will not become angry. Can you explain the faults in this verse?" Thank you, Mataji.
So, first Mahaprabhu said, can you tell what are the special features and what are faults? He said, these are, it's filled with special features. There are no faults. So now Mahaprabhu is saying, I would like to say something if you will not become angry. Try to understand. Mahaprabhu is a boy. He's a boy and he's a teacher of children's grammar, early grammar teacher. And here is Keshav Kashmiri, who's a Digvijayi Pandit, who already defeated world-renowned scholars. So he's coming and he's saying, I'm finding some fault in what you said. Won't he get angry? This little boy, right, who's still drinking milk from his mother, he's going to come and challenge me, challenge my work. He's saying there's some fault. So that's why you can imagine Keshav Kashmiri getting angry. So Mahaprabhu is saying, Keshav Kashmiri said, immediately he became defensive. Faults? There are no faults in what I said. So then Mahaprabhu said, if you don't get angry, I would like to say something. Can you please tell me what are the faults? He already said there are no faults. And Mahaprabhu is saying, please don't get angry, but please, can you please explain the faults in your composition in this particular verse? Can you explain the faults in this verse? This is after he said there are no faults. Mahaprabhu is saying, can you please explain? Please don't get angry. Can you please explain? प्रतिभार काव्य तुम्हारा देवता संतोषे भालो मते विचारिले जानी गुण दोषे. Yeah, Arunita or Mataji,
Hare Krishna Mataji, please accept my humble obeisances.
please accept my humble obeisances, Mataji. Jai Srila Prabhupada.
There is no doubt that your poetry is full of ingenuity, and certainly it has satisfied the Supreme Lord. Yet, if we scrutinizingly consider it, we can find both good qualities and faults.
Yes, he's being very neutral, right? This is not being personal or offensive and all that. Although he was becoming defensive, but Mahaprabhu is saying, actually, your poetry is, a genius work. Right? If certainly the Supreme Lord is satisfied. The Supreme Lord himself is saying. So the Supreme Lord is satisfied with your poetry. But still, if we study it scrutinizingly, you will find both good and bad qualities. So, from a neutral point of view, we should understand both. So there is no doubt that your poetry is very beautiful. I'm not saying that it is all wrong. It has so many, uh, it's a masterpiece. But still, there are some faults also. There's both good qualities and faults if we consider it scrutinizingly. So, ताते भालो कोरी श्लोक करहो विचार कवि कोहे ये कोहिले सेई वेद सार. Translation. Yes, Hare Krishna.
The Lord concluded, now, therefore, let us scrutinize this verse. Carefully scrutinize this verse.
Purport?
The poet replied, yes, the verse you have recited is perfectly correct.
So the Lord said, now therefore let us carefully scrutinize this verse. Okay. So Mahaprabhu is saying, actually it's very beautiful, but there are some faults also. If we look at it scrutinizingly, we can find faults and good qualities. So let us now look at it scrutinizingly. So the poet said, yes, the verse you have recited is perfectly correct. That means Mahaprabhu recited, right? So Mahaprabhu recited, because the poet is Digvijay Pandit. He's the one who composed the whole poem. So Mahaprabhu said, let us carefully let us carefully scrutinize this verse. And then the poet, Digvijay Pandit, is saying, yes, the verse that you have recited is perfectly correct. Okay, let's continue and see. व्याकरणीया तुम्ही नाही पडो अलंकार तुम्ही की जानिबे ei kavitve rasar. So this is obviously the poet saying. So next is Isha.
You are an ordinary student of grammar. What do you know about literary embellishments? You cannot review this poetry because you do not know anything about it.
So you see, right from the beginning, that was this Keshav Kashmiri stand. You are just a grammar teacher. What do you know about poetry? What do you know about, how can you analyze poetry? That's not your field. That's very advanced level. So when Mahaprabhu said, if we study scrutinizingly, we can understand good qualities and faults, he's saying, yes, you have recited the verse correctly. That much I will accept. But you're talking about analyzing for the good qualities and faults. How are you going to do that? You're not qualified to do that. So that's what he's saying. You are an ordinary student of grammar, not even a teacher. He's saying you're just an ordinary student of grammar. What do you know about literary embellishments? You cannot review this poetry because you do not know anything about it. Purport. Okay, so Krishna Ashish.
Keshav Kashmiri first wanted to bluff Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu by saying that since he was not an advanced student in literary style, he could not review a verse full of metaphors and literary ornaments. This argument has some basis in fact. Unless one is a medical man, he cannot criticize a medical man. And unless one is a lawyer, he cannot criticize a lawyer. Therefore, Keshav Kashmiri first depreciated the Lord's position. Because Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was to the champion a student of grammar, how could he dare criticize a great poet like him? Lord Chaitanya, therefore, criticized the poet in a different way. He said that although he was certainly not advanced in a literary career, he had heard from others how to criticize such poetry. And as a Shrutidhara, possessing a complete memory, you could understand the process for such a review.
Very nice. Huh? So we see both Keshav Kashmiri's stand and how Mahaprabhu is defending. So Keshav Kashmiri said, we saw in the translation, he said, how can you criticize? How can you find faults? How can you analyze? That's not your field at all. You're just a grammar teacher. And Srila Prabhupada is saying, of course, he tried to, just minimize Mahaprabhu's position. But at the same time, there is some truth in that, isn't it? Someone who is an expert in a particular field, he can critique, he can, give his viewpoints, he can correct things. It's not even your field, how you can. So this is actually an insult. This is not your field, this is not your department, and you're coming here and you're saying you'll find fault with what I did. What is your authority? What's your position like that? So then how did Mahaprabhu defend that? Yes, you're right. That's not my field. I'm just a grammar teacher. But you have already seen I'm a Shrutidhara, right? Once I hear, I retain it. So I didn't, this is not my field, studying poetry and analyzing it, but I have heard others analyze. I have seen others analyzing, and how to do it, I have learned from them. And you know that I'm a Shrutidhara. Once I hear, I hold it. So that's how I know. Because I heard others doing it. This is not my field, but I heard others doing it. And because I'm a Shrutidhara, whatever I heard, I have retained it. That's why with that confidence, I'm saying that I would like to scrutinizingly look at this verse for any faults. So, yeah, now what will Keshav Kashmiri say? प्रभु कहे न अतएव पूछिए तो मारे विचारिया गुण दोष बुझा हो आमारे. Madhava.
Taking a humble position, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu said, because I am not on your level, I have asked you to teach me by explaining the faults and good qualities in your poetry.
Again, Mahaprabhu is taking a humble position. He said, of course I'm not on your level. I said that in the beginning itself. I'm a student. I'm like a small boy in front of you. You are so experienced and you're so advanced. That is why I asked you to teach me, right? I didn't come up saying that this is the fault and this is the fault. I was asking you, can you tell me what are the faults? Can you tell me what are the decorations, good qualities? Why I said that? Because you're so expert, you will know what is right, what are the good qualities. I see you as a very, you know, as an expert in this field. That's why I was asking you like that. Next. নাহি পড়ি অলঙ্কার করিয়াছি শ্রবণ তাতে এই শ্লোকে দেখি বহু দোষ গুণ Rasapriya.
Certainly, I have not studied the art of literary embellishments, but I have heard about it from higher circles, and thus I can review this verse and find in it many faults and many good qualities.
So it's not that I wanted to insult you or I wanted to show off to you that I'm better than you. I obviously see you as a very learned, advanced person. That's why wanting to learn from you, like I hear from others also, when they, what is the word you say, when they, they are called critics. What do critics do? What is it called? What critics do? Anyone knows?
Criticize.
Criticize? Okay. Analyze. Yeah. So, or constructive criticism, right? So they really look for what are the good points and what are the negative points, but they do it in a very unbiased way. So that is their profession. So Mahaprabhu is saying, I wanted you to explain to me what are the faults and what are the good qualities, because I wanted to learn from you. But then he said, no, there's no faults. So then he tried to persuade him, please explain. And then he said, I'm able to analyze this verse based on what I heard from higher circles. I'm able to do that. I can find faults in what you have composed. Certainly, I have not studied the art of literary embellishments, but I have heard about it from higher circles, how to do this. I have heard. And with that knowledge, I'm able to review this verse. Yeah, review. Okay, I'm able to review this verse and find in it not one or two, but many faults. I'm able to find many faults and also many good qualities. Purport. So after Rasapriya, Kalpesh Prabhu.
Hare Krishna Mataji, please accept. This all
Please accept my humble obeisances, Prabhuji. Jai Srila Prabhupada.
The statement Kariyachi Shramana, I have heard it, is very important in the sense that hearing is more important than directly studying or perceiving. If one is expert in hearing and hears from the right source, his knowledge is immediately perfect. This process is called Shrauta Pantha, or the acquisitions of knowledge by hearing from authorities. All Vedic knowledge is based on the principle that one must approach a bona fide spiritual master and hear from him the authoritative statement of the Vedas. Not necessary to be highly polished literary man to receive knowledge. To receive perfect knowledge from a perfect, one must be expert in hearing. This is called the descending deductive knowledge or Avaroha Pantha.
Yes. So this is the way to receive knowledge. So the way to receive knowledge is by hearing. Srila Prabhupada is saying Shrauta Pantha. Shrauta Pantha. Acquisition of knowledge by hearing from authorities. So we also say Shruti Pramana, right? Shruti Pramana means, Shruti means by hearing, right? From authority, right? Pramana means authority, hearing from authority, that is Shruti Pramana. So anyway, so that is the way to get knowledge. Simply by studying, we cannot get knowledge. We have to actually hear it from the teacher. And here, the other day I was explaining to you, if somebody desires to cross this ocean of Maya, what is the very first step? Tasmat gurum prapadyeta jigyasu shreya uttamam. Shabde parecha nishnatam brahmani uparyayam, something. Last line I'm forgetting. So the very first step is you have to approach a bona fide guru. That's the very first step. And then you have to hear from him, whatever he is instructing. And the expert guru, he will actually guide. He's like a doctor who knows what is my disease, and he will give the treatment according to my disease. That's why we need a guru. So like that, here also Mahaprabhu is saying, I have heard. So Srila Prabhupada is explaining on that. I have heard from higher circles. The way to receive knowledge is by hearing, not so much by studying, Srila Prabhupada said. And you don't have to be a great scholar or something to gain knowledge. If you really want to gain knowledge, first of all, you have to hear from the right source, from the perfect person, and you have to hear properly, right? Hearing is very important. Then by that hearing, all knowledge will descend, because originally the knowledge is coming from the Supreme Lord through the parampara. So if we can simply hear attentively from the right source, then we can get all knowledge. That's the point. Okay, then we'll go to the next. Also, we have to, authoritative statements of Vedas. This is also important. So anyone is a guru, and anyone, whatever he's teaching, that is, no, that what will guru teach? You have to know who is a bona fide guru. Guru is he, Shabde Pare Cha Nishnatam. Nishnatam means he's expert. Expert in what? In Shabda. That means the Vedas or the Puranas, Itihasas, right? So he's expert in the scripture. That's the quality. And what is he teaching us? He's teaching us that the conclusion of the scriptures. What is there in the scriptures? That's what he will teach. So that's also important. What is it that he's teaching is also important. He's concocting some knowledge of his own and he's teaching. He's not a guru. He has to teach from the scriptures, from the Vedas. Okay. Next. Kavi kohe kaho dekhi kon guna dosha, Prabhu kohe na kohi shuno na kori ho rosha. Okay. After Kalpesh Prabhu, Prabhuji, Narasimha Praladeshwar Prabhu.
Hare Krishna Mataji, Dandavat Pranam, all Gurus to Srila Prabhupada.
Dandavat Pranam Prabhuji, Jai Srila Prabhupada.
Translation. The poet said, all right, let me see what good qualities and faults you have found. Purport.
Purport.
The Lord replied, let me speak, and please hear me without becoming angry. Hare
Yeah,
Krishna.
Hare Krishna. So when Mahaprabhu said, from what I have heard from higher authorities, I'm able to see many faults. If you allow me, I will tell you. So he said, okay, let me see what good qualities and faults you have found in my work. So, okay, go ahead. So then Mahaprabhu is saying, okay, then please hear as I tell you without getting angry, right? Don't become angry. Next. Panchadosha eishloke pancha alankara krame ami kohishuno koroho vichara. So what is Mahaprabhu saying? Nilambari Mataji.
Hare Krishna Mataji pronouns. Jai Srila Prabhupada.
Pranam Mataji, Jai Srila Prabhupada.
My dear sir, in this verse there are 5 faults and 5 literary ornaments. I shall state them one after another. Kindly hear me and then give your judgment.
Yes. So Mahaprabhu said, okay, my dear sir, always very, very respectful. In this verse, there are 5 faults and 5 literary ornaments. 5 good qualities like beautiful decorations and 5 faults. I shall state them one after another. Kindly hear me and then you give your judgment. Purport. Big purport. What to do? Okay, Priyanka Mataji, you can start. We'll see.
Hare Krishna Mataji, please accept my humble obeisances. Jai Srila Prabhupada.
Please accept my humble obeisances, Mataji. Jai Srila Prabhupada.
In the verse beginning with Mahatvam Gangayaha, there are 5 literary ornaments and 5 examples of faulty composition. There are 2 examples of the fault called Avimrishta Vidheyamsa, and 1 example each of the faults Vriddhamati, Punar Ukti, and Bhagna Krama. Vimrishta means clean, and Vidheyamsha means predicate. It is a general rule of composition to establish a subject first and then give it its predicate. For example, according to Sanskrit grammar, if one says, this man is learned, his composition is in ordered. But if one says, learned is this man, this composition is not in order. Such a flaw is called avimrishta vidheyamsha dosha, or the fault of unclean composition. The subject matter to be known of the verse is the glorification of the Ganges, and therefore the word idam, this, or what is known, should have been placed before instead of after the glorification. The subject matter already known should be placed before the unknown so that its meaning will not be misconstrued. The second instance of Avimrishta Vidhyamsha dosha occurs in the words Dvitya Shri Lakshmi Iva. In this composition, the word Dvitya, second, is Vidheya or unknown. Placing the unknown first to make the compound word Dvitya Shri Lakshmi is another fault. The words Dvitya Shri Lakshmi Iva were intended to compare the Ganges to the goddess of fortune. But because of this fault, the meaning of the compound word was bewildering. The third fault is that of the Viruddhamati, or the contradictory conception, in the words Bhavani Bhartu. The word Bhavani referred to the wife of Bhava, Lord Shiva, but since Bhavani is already known as the wife of Lord Shiva, to add the word Bharata, husband, thus forming a compound meaning, the husband of the wife of Lord Shiva, is contradictory. For thus it appears as if the wife of Lord Shiva had another husband. The fourth fault is punarukti, or redundancy, which occurs when the verb vibhavati flourishes, which should have ended the composition, is further qualified by unnecessary adjective adbhuta guna, endowed with wonderful qualities. The fifth fault is bhagana krama, which means broken order. In the first, third, and fourth lines, there is anuprasa, or alliteration, created by the sounds ta, ra, bha. But in the second line, there is no such anuprasa, and therefore the order is broken.
Okay,
Thank you.
so I will mark this purport to be discussed again tomorrow, because again we are over time already and it's a long purport. We'll just go over it again tomorrow. We'll end here. Thank you all so much. Hare Krishna. Good night.
Thank you,
Hare
Mataji.
Krishna Mataji, Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Krishna